Wherever I go, I hear the same questions being asked. Should I invest in Copilot? What is Oracle AI doing?
AI doesn't create organizational problems, it reveals them. The model might be incredibly intelligent, but intelligence without organizational understanding will only ever get so far. Everyone can buy AI. Nobody can buy your organization's understanding.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Connected AI. Over the last couple of episodes, we've discussed numerous topics. We've discussed the organizational challenges being introduced because of AI. We've discussed opportunity AI creates. But today, I want to take a slightly different approach, look at another perspective. Because wherever I go, I hear the same questions being asked. Should I invest in Copilot? What is Oracle AI doing? Or look at ChatGPT's new release. Oh, Fable just been released in Claude. Everyone is talking about technology. And I keep hearing the same conversation being repeated. And if I'm being honest, I'm starting to wonder whether the wrong questions are actually being asked. And once again, I'm delighted to have Bhavin next to me to get into this and to really try to answer our organizations asking the wrong question.
Thanks, Bharat. Good to be here again. And let's get into this. So, look, I think we probably are. And I don't say that because AI tech isn't important. It absolutely is. Okay. But I think we've become fascinated by technology, understandably. Instead of focusing on the outcomes we're actually trying to achieve, when I look back over the last 25 years, whether that's during my time at AXA or Equifax or Aarav, right? I honestly can't think of a single transformation program that succeeded simply and only because we chose the right technology. Technology enabled change. It accelerated change. Sometimes it even transformed what was possible. But it was never the single reason for why a program succeeded or not. The organizations that succeeded were the ones that understood the business problem they were trying to solve.
So what is it though? What is it about AI that's either forcing a conversation or making people start the conversation with technology? I get it, it's exciting. But why is it always coming up with either what is one of the AI providers doing, or where should I start investing from a tech perspective first?
I think it's because AI feels different. Every major technology wave has started with the same message, whether it's cloud, ERP, CRM, analytics, data platforms. They all promise better better business outcomes, right? And helping decisioning and things like that. But I think AI is fundamentally different, not because it's more powerful than the technologies that came before it, but because it's the first technology I've worked with that doesn't just process information, it reasons. We're asking it to answer questions, recommend actions, identify patterns, support decisions, sometimes even challenge decisions. And to do that well, it has to understand the organization it's working for.
But hasn't that always been true? Every ERP, CRM implementation, any big deployment, even small deployment, starts with understanding how the business works.
I mean, look, up to a point, an ERP system processes transactions. A CRM manages customer relationships. A billing platform calculates charges. They all need configuring, right? But once they're configured, they're executing defined processes. AI is a bit different. We're asking it to think alongside people. And that's where I think something really interesting is happening. AI doesn't create organizational problems, it reveals them. If different parts of your business uses the same terminology to mean different things, AI exposes that. If your processes are inconsistent, AI exposes that. If critical knowledge only exists in the heads of a handful of experienced people, AI exposes that too. So in many ways, AI becomes a mirror. It reflects back how well your organization actually understands itself.
So what you're saying here is AI isn't exposing a technology issue. It's really exposing an organizational problem.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so because if I asked most CEOs what's keeping them awake at night, right? What's keeping them up at night? I don't think that anyone would say, at least they shouldn't say, I wish I had a better AI model.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They talk about growing revenue, improving customer experience, reducing cost, launching products faster, making better decisions, protecting expertise right across their organization, their ecosystems, helping employees become productive more quickly. Those are business outcomes. AI only matters if it helps to achieve them.
So I'm going to say something that probably scared most of our viewers, listeners, and everyone who knows me anyway. I'm going to put myself in the shoes of a CFO. So as a business, we've got partnerships with Microsoft, Google, Oracle, Amazon. Every single one of them is showing me the AI capability. Every single one of them is telling me why we should procure licenses or go into a AI partnership with them. Why wouldn't I just buy a Microsoft license, Google license, an Oracle license, and just get on with it?
Yeah, I mean, let me answer that with a question, right? Imagine tomorrow morning you've recruited the brightest graduate from one of the Ivy Leagues or wherever. Best person you've ever interviewed, fantastic communicator, learns incredibly quickly, brilliant analytical skills, the skills that you're looking for. Would you ask them to make an important commercial decision on day one?
Definitely not.
Why not?
They've got experience.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, look, they're clearly intelligent. So, we ask ourselves what's missing, right? So it's not intelligence, experience. Yeah. So that's it. So they don't understand your organization yet. They don't understand your customers, your products, your commercial priorities, your policies, your terminology, or why sales and finance sometimes use the same word to mean completely different things. That understanding only comes with time. And I think AI is exactly the same. The model might be incredibly intelligent, but intelligence without organizational understanding will only ever get you so far, right? And I think that's the key question that we need to ask ourselves is, how do you get to a point where your AI models, whichever they are, wherever they come from, how quickly are you able to get it to speed on an understanding of your organization's nomenclature? It's kind of, some of the terminology, some of the, reference points that we use in a day-to-day meeting, et cetera. How do we get the AI model to understand those experience-driven things?
If I'm understanding what you're saying, we've been answered the wrong first question. Instead of asking which AI should I buy, we should be asking, how do we help AI understand our business?
Yeah, exactly. I think because I genuinely believe that's the conversation organizations need to start having from the get-go.
So let's answer the question. How do you actually teach AI how my business works? So think back to your graduate example. When a graduate or any employee starts day one, we expect them to take time to understand our business, read about business. Hence, they go through a pre-designed induction pack / timeline that takes them through not just our policies, procedures, but takes them through how our business works, operates, and why we do what we do. And that can take, in reality, it takes anyone months, weeks, months, even years to get up to speed. So how do you accelerate that for AI?
I think the first step is recognizing what we're actually trying to teach. Most organizations immediately think about data, but I don't think data is the missing piece. The missing piece is understanding. Think back to your own career, right? Every organization you've worked in has systems, processes, policies, documentation. But there comes a moment where you stop asking, where do I find the answer? And you start thinking, I understand how this business works. I know what makes it tick. That's a completely different level of knowledge.
So what you're saying though is the understanding is built over time.
Yeah, exactly. It's built through experience, through conversations, through making decisions, through making mistakes, through learning how different parts of the business fit together. That's why somebody who's worked somewhere for 10 years can often solve a problem in 5 minutes, while somebody else spends half a day looking through documentation.
Because they're not searching for the information, they're applying their understanding.
Yes, they already have the context in place, right? So it's exactly it. And I think organizations often confuse the two. Information tells you what happened. Understanding helps you decide what to do next. They're very different things.
So let's take that a bit further. Give me an example.
So let's use telecoms because it's familiar to both of us, right, in our business.
Yep.
Take one simple word, activation. Sounds straightforward, but ask someone in the network team what activation means. They'll tell you it's when the service becomes technically available. Ask billing or the billing operations team. They'll say it's when charging starts. Ask customer services. They'll tell you it's when the customer can actually begin using the product. 3 different answers. None of them are wrong. They're simply looking at the same business through different lenses.
So if we had AI in there, and imagine asking AI, how many activations did we have yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So which activations does it mean? Network, billing, customer service? Unless the organization has a shared understanding of that terminology, AI has to guess. And that's not where we want to be. So you got to feed it that context and understanding.
So this isn't really a tech problem. It's a business understanding problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I think AI exposes something that always existed. Every organization has developed its own language over time, its own acronyms, its own terminology, its own way of working. People who've been there for years don't even notice it anymore. It's just white noise. It's just how the organization communicates.
I guess that explains why we give new starters so much time before we expect them to become truly productive.
Yeah, and it's not because they're not capable. They're learning context. They're learning relationships. They're learning what different teams actually mean when they use the same words. That's organizational understanding.
So keeping it on the theme of acceleration, right? I've got the business telling me we need to get on with AI, using AI, doing a lot more AI. Again, my CFO hat on. I've got the vendors telling me, come buy, come purchase, look at the capabilities we have, what we can do for you as a business. And then I've got my architects and my data team come in to talk to me about knowledge graph, data catalogs, metadata management. And they've been talking about this for a long while now, right? For quite a few years even. Isn't this organization understanding just another version of that?
They're all incredibly valuable, but I don't think they solve the same problem. Master data management helps create trusted definitions of core business entities. Knowledge graphs help describe relationships. Data catalogs help people discover information. All of those are important, key enablers, but none of them fully explain how an organization thinks. Why one commercial decision is made instead of another. Why an exception exists. Why experienced people instinctively investigate one issue before another. That's a different kind of knowledge.
So you're moving away from, you're moving beyond organization information to organization understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where our own thinking changed when we started building Insight Forge.
So when Insight Forge was starting to be developed, obviously I wasn't here for that. So can you tell us or tell me what exactly happened?
Yeah, I mean, look, when we started the project, I honestly thought the difficult part would be the AI, choosing the model, designing prompts, building the architecture. I don't think we could have been any more wrong, right? The hardest part was sitting with experienced, BRM architects, people that have lived, breathed revenue assurance, operations or billing, those specialists. We'd ask, why did you investigate that account first? And quite often the answer would be, it just didn't look right. Now, that's a frustrating answer if you're trying to build software, because it didn't look right isn't a business rule. It's 20 years of experience, it's judgment, it's pattern recognition. That's when we realized that we weren't really trying to teach AI. We were trying to understand how experts think across our ecosystem, right? And trying to bottle that information up.
Experts think, I think that's great 2 words. And it's really interesting distinction, because the value wasn't actually in the AI. It was in uncovering the expertise.
Yeah, I think once we've captured that expertise, then AI became incredibly powerful. Not because it suddenly became more intelligent, but because it finally had the context it needed to reason in the way experienced people reason.
So if I was to summarize what we discussed so far, I think AI doesn't replace organizational understanding. It 100% depends on it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Okay? And once we realized that, it completely changed the way we thought about enterprise AI.
All right. So you said something just before the break that caught my attention. We weren't really teaching AI. We were trying to understand how experts think. That feels like a fundamental shift.
Yeah, it was. In fact, I'd say it completely changed how we thought about AI or how we were trying to approach it. When we started, we assumed the challenge was technology. By the end, we realized the challenge was understanding the organization, understanding our customers, and talking to them and getting feedback. I think that's the true. I think that's true for most businesses as well, right? Is going through that process of understanding that very critical piece.
So where would you say that understanding actually exists today?
Everywhere. That's the interesting part. Some of it sits in systems, some of it sits in documentation, some of it sits in process maps, some of it sits in reports. But the most valuable part usually sits inside the head of an experienced person.
The people you always rely upon.
Exactly. So every organization has them, right? We've got them. Every enterprise that we work with, every small, medium-sized business that we work with, the people who seem to know how everything connects together. Not because they've memorized more documentation or what have your policies, etc. Because they've built judgment over years. They've seen situations before. They know which questions to ask. They know where problems usually start. They understand how decisions ripple across the business.
But they're not just knowledgeable. They've built the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And experience changes how you think. 2 people can look at exactly the same information and reach completely different conclusions. Difference isn't intelligence, it's context. One person understands how the organization works, the other one is still learning.
That makes me think every organization already has intelligence. It's just spread across a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And how I see it, we spend a lot of time talking about artificial intelligence, but organizations already possess another form of intelligence. It's built over years, sometimes decades. It's created through experience, customer interactions, projects, successes, failures, lessons learned. That's what I think an organizational understanding is all about.
You've said 2 words there, very, very clear words. You said intelligence and you said understanding, but you didn't say organizational intelligence. You said organizational understanding.
Yeah, deliberately. Because understanding comes first in any walk of life, right? So if you can help the organization consistently capture, connect, and reuse that understanding, that's when you begin building what we call organizational intelligence. To me, organizational intelligence isn't something you buy. It's something you build, and you build that over time.
So is organizational intelligence actually organizational capability?
Yeah, I mean, look, think about it this way. The smartest organizations I've worked with weren't necessarily the ones with the smartest people. They were the ones where knowledge flowed
Mm-hmm.
across, where lessons weren't lost,
Mm-hmm.
where teams learned from one another, where decisions became better
Mm-hmm.
because previous experience was available
Mm-hmm.
and shared. That's organizational capability.
Can I challenge you?
Go for it.
All this sounds great, and it sounds logical, but it also sounds incredibly ambitious. How do you actually capture something intangible that is experience?
Yeah, I don't think you start by trying to capture everything. That's where organizations get overwhelmed. Instead, you start by asking a much simpler question.
Mm-hmm.
What knowledge creates the most value? Not every document, not every process, not every meeting, just the knowledge that genuinely helps people make better decisions.
I'm still not. Give me an example.
Okay, let's go back to revenue assurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
An experienced analyst doesn't just know where the reports are, they know which reports to open first, which ones are the most meaningful, which customer segments normally create problems, which exceptions are genuinely important, which anomalies can safely be ignored. That's knowledge that creates value. That's where I'd begin.
So you're prioritizing decision making knowledge, not information for the sake of information.
Yeah, exactly. And once you've identified that knowledge, you need a way of organizing it, making it reusable, making it available not just to AI, but to people as well.
So if I think about layers, is this where the enterprise knowledge layer comes in?
Yes, this is exactly where I think it becomes valuable, right? I don't see an enterprise knowledge layer as another application or another database. I see it as a capability, a way of organizing organizational understanding so it becomes reusable for people, for AI, for future employees, for future projects, for future acquisitions. It's about making what the organization already knows far easier to access and apply.
So why isn't the enterprise knowledge layer a goal?
It's an enabler. The goal is helping the organization become smarter over time. The enterprise knowledge layer is one capability that helps make that happen.
That's a really good distinction. I can only imagine some of our listeners and viewers thinking about we're about to start another technology program.
Exactly. And I'd say don't start by building technology. Start by understanding your organization better. Technology should support that journey, not define it. So obviously understand the technology, but don't be just completely blindsided by and guided by just the technology. There is a key piece around understanding before you start on that.
So, okay. So just not to start. And we discuss what not to do and what to do and where to start and the enterprise knowledge layer, organizational understanding, etc., etc. But one thing that keeps niggling in the back of my mind, and we've barely spoken about AI models.
Yeah, you're right, and again, that's deliberate because I genuinely believe the model will change, the technology will improve, and we're seeing it. Right, the costs will reduce, capabilities will increase. That's what technology does.
Uh-huh.
But organizational understanding compounds over time. Every project can strengthen it. Every lesson can improve it. Every new employee can contribute to it. Getting a fresh pair of eyes on things. That's the
Yeah.
investment I'd make because whatever technology comes next, that understanding will still create value. And again, that constant feeding of that understanding as things evolve, as things change, as new people come to play into the table, that's where that value grows and grows.
So if somebody was to ask you, what's the asset?
I say it's not the AI, it's not even the enterprise knowledge layer. The real asset is the organization's accumulated understanding of how it creates value. Everything else simply helps unlock it.
Let's make this practical. Something even more scarier. I'm now a CEO. CEO hat is on. I've listened to everything you said. I understand why organizational standing matters. I understand why AI depends on it. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to walk into this office. Where do I actually begin? Because I've got legacy systems, different business units, different technology, different priorities. It just feels like a massive undertaking.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I wouldn't start with technology. In fact, I'd probably tell you not to.
Hold on, why?
One of the biggest mistakes organizations make is believing they have to solve everything before they can create value. I've seen it throughout my career. People launch huge transformation programs because they're trying to fix the whole enterprise most of the time. That's the wrong place to start.
So where do you start?
I'd start with one business outcome, not 10, just one. Something that's genuinely important, reducing customer churn, improving revenue assurance, speeding up onboarding, reducing claims handling time, improving field service productivity, whatever matters most to the business.
So you're still seeing business value?
Yeah, always. Technology should follow value, not the other way around. Once you've identified the outcome, I'd ask a very simple question. What knowledge helps our best people consistently achieve that outcome?
Interesting. It's not what system do we need?
Yeah, exactly. Because systems support people, knowledge enables people. There's a big difference.
It's okay. So let's use revenue assurance. How would that work?
So let's imagine your objective is reducing revenue leakage. I'd spend time with the analysts who consistently find problems faster than everyone else. I'd ask them, how do you approach an investigation? What makes you suspicious? Which reports do you look at first? Which relationships have you learned over the years? What mistakes do new analysts usually make? That's where the value sits.
So you're trying to uncover what the experts think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, because that's the knowledge that helps everyone else improve, not just AI, everyone.
So you've mentioned enterprise knowledge strategy a couple of times. What does that even actually mean?
Yeah, good question. So I think the word strategy sometimes puts people off. I'm not talking about another PowerPoint presentation or another document that sits on a SharePoint site. Yeah, for me, it's...
There's me thinking you're going to say there's another Big Four consultancy going to come in for a strategy piece.
I won't go there. But yeah, for me, it's a leadership discipline. It's the habit of asking, what are we learning? How do we keep that learning? How do we make it reusable? If leadership starts asking those questions consistently, the organization naturally becomes smarter over time.
So it's not just about documenting knowledge. It's about building a culture where knowledge is continually captured, reused, reshared.
Yep, exactly. Because knowledge only creates value when somebody else can benefit from it. Otherwise, it just stays trapped in individuals.
Can I ask you something?
Mm.
You actually said yes pretty quickly now. Who actually owns it? Because I can imagine IT saying that it sounds like a tech platform, or my data team saying, "Well, no, this is data points. This belongs to us." I've got my HR team saying, "This supports onboarding." Operations saying, "This improves delivery." Who actually owns it? Where does it sit? Where's accountability lie?
Yeah, I think you got on something there, Bharat. I think that's one of the biggest leadership questions organizations need to answer. My view, this doesn't belong to one department.
Okay.
It belongs to the executive team, for sure, because organizational understanding is a business asset. The CIO enables it. Architecture helps structure it. Data helps govern it. HR benefits from it. Operations use it. But leadership owns it, because leadership owns how the organization creates value.
So this isn't another IT initiative.
No, It's an organizational capability. And I think that's an important distinction because capabilities grow, projects finish.
That's a great line. Capabilities grow, projects finish.
Yeah, it's true. And look, if every AI project starts from scratch, you're not building capability, you're repeating effort. Every project should leave behind something that the organization can reuse. I think that's our mantra throughout everything, right? It's about reusable of the capabilities that we build and deploy. That's how capability compounds over time.
So, if my CEO hat on again, this sounds spot on, sounds great. Yep, we know what we've got to do. It also sounds incredibly expensive. It sounds like there's another major investment required.
Yeah, look, it shouldn't be because I wouldn't recommend trying to model the whole organization. Start with one business capability, learn, deliver value, expand. It's exactly how successful organizations have approached ERPs, right? You do a pilot and you learn from that pilot, and then you go and then you look at the longer term roadmap. CRM, analytics, cloud. You don't transform everything on day one. You build confidence through outcomes.
So this is evolutionary, not revolutionary.
Exactly, and the mistake is thinking the destination comes first. It doesn't. Learning comes first. Capabilities come second. Scale comes third.
So where does enterprise knowledge layer fit into this journey?
The enterprise knowledge layer is simply one of the capabilities that support it. Think of it as the place where organizational understanding becomes structured and reusable. It helps connect knowledge across people, processes, systems, and AI. But it isn't the destination, it's an enabler. The destination is an organization that gets smarter everywhere through all of that ontology that's been created.
That's quite a different way of think. It's quite a different way to think about transformation.
Yeah, I think it is. For years, we've measured transformation by asking what systems did we implement? Maybe we should start asking what understanding did we create as a result of it? Because that's the thing that keeps delivering value long term after the project has even finished.
Bhavin, we spent most of today talking about what organizations should do differently. So let's finish by looking ahead. If organizations start thinking this way, what does the enterprise look like 5 or 10 years on from now?
I actually think it will look very familiar, actually. We will still have ERP systems, CRM, finance platforms, data platforms, AI platforms. None of those will disappear. Technology will continue to evolve. It always has. But I think one capability will become increasingly important, an organization's ability to understand itself and how that understanding has been fed into the various technologies that you have and how it's being leveraged across the ecosystem of your business.
Okay. So do you think that will become a competitive advantage?
Yeah, I do. I think about what's happened over the last 20 years. ERPs became available to everyone. Cloud became available to everyone. Analytics became available to everyone. Today, we're seeing exactly the same thing with AI. The technology itself is becoming more accessible every month. And that's brilliant, right? But it also means technology becomes less of a differentiator. It's more about the use of that technology.
So if everyone has access to the same AI, where does the competition advantage come from?
From how well that AI understands your organization. Imagine 2 insurance companies or 2 telecom operators. They're using exactly the same AI platform, whichever brand that might be. Exactly the same model, exactly the same infrastructure. One organization has spent years capturing how it works. It's terminology, it's policies, it's commercial rules, it's customer knowledge, it's lessons learned. The other hasn't. Which organization do you think creates more value?
The first one, because the AI has better context.
Exactly. The technology is identical. The understanding isn't. That's why I think we've been looking in the wrong place. Everyone can buy AI. Nobody can buy your organization's understanding. That's yours. You built that over years, sometimes decades. That's incredibly valuable.
That's a really important shift. It's almost moving away from competing on technology, but we're now competing on understanding.
Exactly. And that's why I think leadership teams need to start thinking differently. For years, we've asked questions like, what systems should we invest in? What platforms should we standardize on? Those questions still matter. But I think another question now becomes just as important. What knowledge makes our organization successful? Because if you can't answer that, it's very difficult to teach AI how to create value.
There's one thing I do want to bring up, and it's interesting because if I think of an organizational chart, right? Those who are starting their career, or even graduates, even those are on the first few years of the career, and those a bit more beyond, they talk about the fear of AI. And you hear it less and less the higher you go up, but you can see on their face that they're a lot more nervous about it. You haven't mentioned that so far. You've hardly spoken about AI replacing people.
Yeah, and that's deliberate, once again, because I don't think that's the opportunity. I've never believed technology is at its best when it replaces people. I think it's at its best when it makes people better, helping people make better decisions, helping them learn faster, helping them spend more time solving problems instead of searching for information. That's where I think AI creates its biggest impact.
So this isn't really about artificial intelligence replacing human intelligence.
No, it's about combining them. Artificial intelligence gives us incredible reasoning capability. People to bring judgment, experience, empathy, commercial awareness, creativity. When you combine those together, that's where organizations become genuinely more capable.
Do you know what really strikes me? Throughout this entire conversation, you've used the word understanding far more than you've used the word technology. Actually, you probably used the word deliberate as well. But yeah, you use understanding a lot more than the word tech.
Yeah, no, I had realized that, and and you're right, and that's probably because I think understanding is what creates value. I can't emphasize it anymore than keep talking about understanding and knowledge. Technology enables it, it accelerates it, but understanding is what changes outcomes. See, I said it again.
So imagine somebody's on their commute tomorrow morning. They've got into the office. What's the very first conversation you would encourage them to have?
I'd keep it really simple. I'd bring together a small group of business leaders, not just IC, operations, commercial, customer experience, finance, product, and I'd ask 3 questions. Where do we create most value? Where do we lose the most value? And what do our best people know that everybody else would benefit from knowing? Don't start with technology, start there. Because once you've answered those questions, you're internally, you're naturally, discover where AI can make the biggest difference.
So don't start with AI.
Yeah, exactly. As in, start with your business, understand how your organization creates value, preserve that understanding, help people benefit from it, democratize that, right? Then let AI amplify it. That's a very different journey from buying technology and hoping for value follows.
Okay. So one final question, if I can get in. If you could leave CEOs, CIOs, CFOs, CTOs, the CXO, and business leaders with one thought, just the one thought, and you can't use the word deliberate, from today's conversation, what would it be?
I'll probably say this. Over the last 20 years, we've invested billions building digital organizations. I think the next decade is about building organizations that learn faster, because organizations that learn faster, adapt faster. They make better decisions. They preserve knowledge. They onboard people more quickly. They improve continuously. And AI can accelerate all of that, but it can't replace the understanding that makes it possible. That's something every organization has to build for itself.
I think that's a great place to finish because this conversation hasn't really been about AI. It's been about building organizations that become smarter over time.
Exactly. And I think, look, AI is simply one of the tools that helps us get there. And look, I don't want for people to stop playing and experimenting with AI and getting themselves used to it, because even the understanding of AI tools, AI technology is equally as key as understanding your business. So, people should continue to keep experimenting with AI, using AI, seeing how it works within their business, deploying it as a fabric of their business, but bring the knowledge layer with that as well. Consider the ontology across your business, across your enterprise, and share that across everyone.
I think that's a great place to stop and conclude the podcast. Thank you, Bhavin.
Thanks, Bharat. Good to be here.
And thank you for joining us today on another episode of Connected AI. If today's discussion has resonated with you, has challenged how you think about AI, or perhaps, and most importantly, think about your organization, we'd love to hear from you. Please comment, post, share. Feel free to email us. Feel free to go to aaravsolutions.com and contact us through the various channels. Because we want to hear from you, and we want to hear what you think and how your organization today is getting ready for deploying AI at scale. Till next time, thank you for listening.